Hey there, welcome to a new video of A Matter of Life and Death. My name is Willem van Zandvoort.
I'm Paul Ketelaars.
And today we have something super exciting for you.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been planning this for months. And today is finally the day. We have none other than Daniel Dam coming on the show, and he's going to tell us all about workflow.
Awesome. Can't wait. So let's get started. Thank you very much, Daniel, for joining us on this interview. We're both very excited, and I think you as well, about this upcoming feature. So I'd say let's jump right in. For the people who don't know you that well, can you briefly explain who you are and what you do at Mendix?
Yeah, my name is Daniel Dam. I am a product manager within Mendix. I have been for about 4 years. I actually manage two things on the platform. One is the whole citizen developer offering, which includes Mendix Studio. But more recently, over the past year or so, Workflow as an exciting new capability, and which we are about to launch. So that's my responsibility towards the teams also, to make sure that we actually release the stuff that you guys need. So that's what we do.
Cool. And
Awesome.
Can you, well, diving straight into the things that matter, can you briefly explain what Workflow is?
Yeah, Workflow is, well, it's a new capability, of course, something I think highly anticipated, also asked for quite a few times, I think, over the past years. Basically, you could see it as a new visual language on the platform, right? As we have other domain-specific languages, microflows, for example. Now there's also a workflow language, and as I said, it's visual, which is nice. You know, as opposed to microflows, it now understands state, for example, which is highly important, of course, in a process.
Yeah.
And the nice thing about this is it's also integrated, right? So it's not just a standalone thing. It's actually integrated with pages, with microflows, with everything else in the Mendix platform. So yeah, and I really, you know, it's being looked forward to already. We've had quite a number of private beta projects as well. People are very happy with what's coming. So yeah.
Yeah, and just a quick, what were the responses from the private beta? Because you did onboard some customers, I think, in a private beta.
Yes, definitely. We selected actually two rounds of customers, 3 customers actually, just developers. I think like yourselves, eager to get started. And what we basically did, we retrofitted a workflow that they had already built, just for a quick turnaround. And they were just hands-on. They were doing the work. We were, of course, watching, advising, helping out where needed in very early versions. Yeah, I think it was a very high intensive private feedback round, so to say, and it was just fun to do, seeing it all work, seeing where it didn't work yet, seeing the features that were needed, the experience that wasn't just right. It's what makes me happy to be involved there and actually change things for the good. So that's that's what we did.
Cool. That is super smart. So you actually built workflow based off of, I'd say, like a real life scenario and a use case from developers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, several. This is not just something theoretical. And I think process is everywhere. As I've seen over the past years, I don't know the exact percentage, but I would say multiple, 30-40% maybe of apps does contain some form of process, if not more, when you look more to the business problems actually that are behind that. So it's to have speed there where you maybe didn't have speed in the past is really going to help.
Yeah. We see it in our projects as well. I think the past few projects that Paul and myself did together, eventually always a question comes up with something workflow related.
Yeah.
So
it's typical, I would say. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. So how long have you been developing workflow?
Well, I think 2 weeks ago it was sprint 26, which means we have 2 week sprints, so exactly a year actually. Wow. When we first started, with all the options wide open to where we are right now, and that's been quite a journey. And I'm really proud of the team that has done this. They have done a great job. So yeah.
In the working from home situation, might not be that easy.
Oh, indeed, yeah. Especially when there's many unknowns, right? People are
exactly
asking, what should we do here, and what about the UX? What about the architecture? It is not an easy problem to solve. Yeah.
Extra kudos for you and the team.
Yeah, well, definitely, yes.
Yeah.
So, who is Workflow actually for?
Oh, that's a good question. It's right, Mendix, right? Everyone is a maker, so it's saying for everyone. That includes the Mendix developers that we have, and also the people in the business actually that want to develop. Starting with the Studio Pro experience, it is fully integrated in Studio Pro, and all the power of Studio Pro, including of course microflows and extending workflows, is available. So that's our first aim, is to enable those developers now already developing with Studio Pro, building apps containing lots of microflows and spaghetti code, you would say, or spaghetti low code maybe, which is quite hard also to maintain afterwards. So that is the immediate problem I think we solve, giving speed and also making it much more maintainable, easier, like simplified solution, so that you can really focus on the actual problem to solve rather than having to build the architecture around it every time again. So that's the initial aim, or the main aim. Next to that, of course, we also make this available in Studio, and which is of course our solution for citizen developers, and specifically for workflow. Think of it, it's the business that wants to solve a problem. They know the process, right? If you talk about to a business person that wants to solve something, they'll be saying, well, department A does this, then it comes my way. I need to do a few things, and maybe my team needs to do a few things, and after everything's checked off, we can confirm this is done. That's a process, of course. And rather than talking about screens and buttons and logic, they talk process. So it's of course a great way to model, visually model that process. It actually helps bridge that gap. So therefore, we've also made it available for citizen developers to be involved, right, in a collaborative way, as is possible, and also to build these apps fully themselves inside Studio within the guardrails that are there. So that's the second aim, and we've taken the full spectrum on purpose, because that's what we do, right? That's what we have. So yeah, that's basically my answer. Yeah.
And are there any differences between the implementation in Studio Pro opposed to Studio? Because obviously Studio Pro is much more aimed at pro developers.
Yeah.
Are there any differences to make it easier for the citizen developers?
Yeah, definitely. We would say that those would be the guardrails, so to say. The existing guardrails already are there, right? The security, for example, cannot be changed inside Mendix Studio. You are, the starter app or anything that the professional developer has prepared will define it. We'll be using Mendix SSO in Studio, for example. Secondly, the experience is somewhat different, whereas, for example, to obtain users for a user task, we will get to that later, you can use XPath in Studio Pro. XPath is not that easy for a business person to use. So like we've done for data filters, we've made that graphical, so you can actually put it in a selection dialog saying, well, maybe user role needs to equal employee, name needs to contain a poll, for example. That kind of information is an XPath under the hood, but it's actually presented as a piece of UI, they understand with drop downs. It's those kind of changes. The module, I will get to the module as well. Some convenience that we've added is of course fully extendable and customizable in Studio Pro, whereas in Studio it's a given. Whatever is available is available for use, and you can use. If you want to extend it, that's where Studio Pro comes in, and that's where the full power is also. And there's several hooks inside Workflow that you can hook into, extending the logic, changing the inbox, adding dashboards and stuff is all very much possible inside Studio Pro. So those are some of the differences between those two.
I love that. I love the fact that you mention that Studio is in a sense more limited, but it has everything to offer that a citizen developer needs. And it feels to me also as though building workflows, like you said, is really something for the business.
Yeah.
And once the basis has been set up, I think as a pro developer, you don't want to spend too much time extending the workflows, and the fact that you can now give that to the business using Studio, well, hats off. That's awesome.
No longer a document, right?
Yeah.
Or even the BPMN notation, it still leaves room for what is there. It's just this is the common language that you can now start to speak between business and IT departments. So yeah, that's really exciting.
Agree.
Yeah. So let's dive a bit into the configuration of workflow, because I'm getting a sense of what workflow is. I want to know how you set it up. So
it's a good question. There's several elements here. Of course, we added a workflow editor, and I mean later on in the well, not here, I think even in the coming weeks when we release this for product beta, you can see it for yourself. But it basically is an editor, and you can drag in all sorts of tasks. They'll be of mainly two types. You have like user tasks, where a user needs to do something, right? You need to look at something, confirm, or you need to specify something, specify the laptop that a new employee is going to get, specify what information you want from the employee. That's all done in the user task. Then there's also microflow tasks that are actually what they are, right? They are system tasks in BPM language, but they just run pieces of logic straight away. And that's what you put together. There's decisions as well, making you, if the expense request is larger than 1,000, do something else. So that logic is all inside that workflow editor. And also parallel paths, so you can execute things in parallel, where, for example, two managers need to look at something before the whole process can proceed. So that's on the workflow editor side, and this is also where you add pages. You also select for a user task which user does this apply to. Who should I target in the sense, right? That's what you're telling the runtime, and that's very much extendable by microflows as well. So you can put all the logic you want there, but it's really easy. Just drag in the task. You select the page. You select the user to execute. That's the minimum, and then it runs. Then that's the workflow editor side, but that of course needs to be shown to the user, right? So where's the inbox, where the task inbox, where the user sees things to pick up, and that's the other part. So we've added an example implementation also for convenience and getting started really easy. It's called Workflow Commons. It's a new module that's available from the marketplace. With that has the inbox, that has dashboards as well for an administrator to look at. It also has an administration center, right, for the admin to go look at running instances and say, well, this needs to be processed. The person left for holiday, or those type of interventions that an administrator can do. So that's the next piece that we've added that you can just freely use or customize as a professional developer. And I think we will get there in a minute also about that. And then on the domain model side, you just you have data. You just select a request entity, so to say, or a context entity, we call it. And this is going to be the entity that travels through the whole workflow and actually is connected, associated to the data already in the app. And that's about it. So it's not super complicated to do. A lot of it comes out of the box, but it is fully customizable.
Awesome.
Yep, that sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
You briefly mentioned the domain model. Does the workflow part of Studio Pro come with its own domain model, or do we need to set that up? Or
yeah, that's a good question. We've added several items in the system domain model, so that you can actually use that. You can actually access tasks, task instances. You can access workflow instances, see what their state is, and then also in microflow actions influence them. So that's the way we've set it up. As I said, to make use of that domain model, you need to introduce a context entity inside your own domain model.
Yeah, sure.
And that actually connects by inheritance to the system domain model.
Right.
And also then you're free to associate, right, with anything you want, local data, but also external data. So if you are using DataHub, for example, with external entities, it's perfectly possible to just associate that data, and that works together seamlessly.
Cool. Yeah. That's awesome.
Wow, it's becoming a whole.
Yeah,
yes.
It all comes together now.
Yeah, indeed. That's so smart.
Cool.
And there's more to come, of course. But yeah.
Nice. I think one of my, the biggest thing you could implement, I think, is are workflows configurable at runtime?
Yeah, good question. Good question. That is a roadmap item at the moment.
Okay.
So what we've said, we laid the foundation now, right? You need something at the bottom and actually knows how to execute a process, and that's what we are bringing to market. And the next step for us is to then add runtime configurability or flexibility, whatever you want to call it, to it. And that comes in several flavors, right? You can think of end users configuring decision tables, for example. That could be a solution for that. Or inserting certain steps inside the process at runtime. But it all rests on the foundation of the process management capabilities, workflow execution capability that we've now added.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Wow, that obviously brings some complications with it as well. So, yeah. So that makes me question how are workflows executed? How?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So the runtime, as you know it, has been extended. So when I speak to people, they ask, "Oh, is this now a separate workflow engine, right? Like they are used to from other platforms, maybe?" The answer is no. It is truly integrated into the Mendix runtime. So whereas in the past the runtime didn't understand state, it actually does so now. So it knows for a workflow, right? When workflow kicks off, what the runtime does, it actually searches, okay, which tasks should I make available in the sense of available for execution? And is that a user task? Okay, we'll just create a user task, which then of course lands in the domain model in the database, and then of course shows up in task inboxes, right? And then it waits until a user completes that task, which is an explicit action that it gets either through a button or a microflow. And after a user has completed the task, the next set of tasks, it could be more, right? If you go parallel, for example, the next set of tasks are say prepared. Users are calculated, so to say, using perhaps the microflows that the developer has specified, and that results in the next set of tasks that actually the workflow then makes available. System tasks, so microflow tasks, of course, are then immediately scheduled for execution. It actually uses the task queue implementation for it. So that's another piece of say native functionality that then comes together. And that's how the runtime. In a nutshell, there's more to say about it, but it sometimes helps to get that picture, the difference between user tasks and microflow tasks and how it all hangs together in the Mendix runtime. It also means, it is part of runtime. So everything you know about runtime in terms of its scalability is also applicable to workflows automatically. And that's the beauty of it. Where to run it doesn't really matter. Well, it matters, but the everything that's applicable to the Mendix runtime, as you know it, is also applicable to workflows.
Cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah.
And I heard you briefly mention interventions in the previous question. I can imagine if I have a complete landscape of applications and I need to dive into each application separately to make sure I don't have any workflow tasks I need to intervene on, that it's quite a hassle. Is there a way to view all my workflow tasks or information about my workflows outside of a specific app?
Yeah, that's a good question. It is also the reason, one of the benefits actually of having the system domain model exposed, because every app will have tasks, and you can expose them, integrated to some other app, of course, that brings them all together. So as of now, there is no default, say, integration available for that. Okay. But it's just as easy, in the way that you build your integrations, you can just get all the task info from every single app. Right. And then present that to the user in a central, for example, inbox, central dashboard. Also, I've heard that from many customers saying, well, exactly. In terms of my process optimization, my process data, I'd like to bring that together, even on executed and completed workflows. I'd like to track that and not keep it inside separate apps. But because it's all the same format, it's pretty easy to actually do that.
Yeah, cool. I think that basically answers our next question as well. How can you interact with instances that are broken in one way or another.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting indeed. So broken could mean indeed functionally broken, right? I think that's what we're talking about mainly. Because this is about state, right? There is state now in a workflow, and they are long-lived process. Actually, someone could leave for holiday if a task was assigned to a user, or could leave the company, or the situation may have changed, and there is always a need for a person to manually then intervene. Well, that's why we've added that admin center that I briefly touched upon earlier. It basically is an overview of all the workflow instances, again exposed in the system domain model, so you can build everything yourself if you want. And that has several default actions like aborting the workflow, but also just viewing them. Where are we now? What's the audit trail so far? Which nodes have been placed by which users? Who's at whose desk, on whose plate is this instance at the moment? All the questions that a process administrator, which is often a separate role, needs, right? So it's not the developer that's going to do that, of course. It's not the IT department. It's the bit in the business. There's going to be someone that's going to be the administrator of this, onboarding process, of this intelligent automation process. That is exactly the persona, so to say, that we built this feature for. So that's that. We will extend that with abilities to pause, resume workflows, instances specifically. So that's all from that single admin center.
Cool. Okay. One question pops into mind. How do you handle, for example, if a task has to be executed within a week, or so to say?
No.
Is there a possibility to add something like that? Does it come out of the box?
Well, first of all, due dates, yes, they are on a task, both on a workflow level and workflow instance level, of course, and on a task level. So this workflow needs to be finished by, or this task, after creation needs to be finished by. And this is a dynamic value, so you can just put an expression there to calculate it, also based on the input, maybe even based on decisions made in previous tasks that you've captured. That is the dynamic part of it. First of all, that's used in dashboards. Of course, you can compare that, against each other. And then, of course, you could also use it for sending reminders. Reminders yet is a roadmap item. If you like that, to have it out of the box. Of course, you can always do this using microflows, right? Just comparing dates against due dates, and then taking whatever action based on top of that. So yeah, they can be used in several ways, but the core data and the core mechanism is there.
All right. Cool.
It's pretty entwined in the complete Mendix ecosystem by now. So I imagine it is pretty difficult to import existing workflow from other workflow tools into the Mendix workflow engine. Is it something that is possible at all, or is it like it's a completely separate language, so it's a no-go?
That's a good question. Yeah, and that's what you often see indeed that it's a completely separate language. What we've made sure is that every item in the, say, toolbox of our workflow, right? So in the model, in the meta model, so to say, of our workflow, is actually linked one-on-one with an item in the BPMN specification. Now, that is to say, you can't just drag a BPMN specification and make it work. That is, I'd like to add that later, but I'll come back to that in a moment. But conceptually, they are the same, and that is what is really helping, I think, in understanding, but also in just keeping the concepts clear. And also, a person that has worked on BPM projects before will very easily recognize those concepts and be able to work from them. As I said, the BPMN import is not yet there. There is some value there, of course, in getting started pretty easily, because some organizations have a lot of models documented.
Yeah, exactly.
There is a little catch there, because they may have documented them, but are they actually executable models?
That's true.
That's so difficult.
Not sure about your experience there, but it is mostly, I'd say, what I've seen, 80%, maybe even more, is just documenting, which has value, right? Yeah. But that doesn't translate one-on-one into a working model in any engine, so it won't also in Mendix. So it's somewhat of a thing that we may add for convenience later. It helps you speed up, but it's not strictly required. The main concepts that's what we made sure that the main concepts actually stay as they are. So the recognizability for a user, that was the main thing to keep.
I get that.
Enough.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. There was one other question before that popped into mind. Well, actually two. When you were talking about extending the logic, a question came into mind for those developers who also use Java. Well, is it possible to do something, writing your own Java code combined with workflow?
I would say in the context of microflows, yes, of course, right? As you can write your Java actions already. Yeah. There are specific activities in the microflow to complete a task, for example, to call a workflow. For now, that is the only way to trigger it. Having a more formalized runtime API, I think that's the main thing to have here, is a roadmap item. So that you can even in the high code situation, if you want to differ low code versus high code, that is also possible. So that is the way forward at the moment. So somewhat possible, and the more formalized runtime API will follow.
Okay, awesome. And the other question that came into mind was, I think this is mainly like the workflow commons part related. You mentioned the admin center and completing tasks, etc.
Yeah.
Does it also contain building blocks for, let's say, native and PWA? Because we see that getting bigger in Mendix 9.
No, it's a good question. Not yet, but as you say, it's all coming together. And as I mentioned, more is coming. That's exactly what we need to do as a next step. Of course, there's always a trade-off. Should we wait with releasing anything until we've got it all together in terms of combined? We felt there's enough value now without native and PWA to release workflows, and that's going to be so much easier already. Then the next step will be to combine those.
Yeah,
so, it's a very good question. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, because obviously, I heard people say, this workflow is for my manager. My manager is out on the golf course. The golf course doesn't have good daily coverage, so there could be something native here, and that's true. Yeah. So I don't think you mentioned something on extensibility. That's maybe a good thing too. How can a professional developer extend the workflow? Well, first of all, of course, as I said, microflows are everywhere. In terms of optional, right? There's several hooks that you can hook into. For example, when a user task is created and users have been determined, there is a hook that says, okay, now do something. If you want to tell the users or do some logic before the user actually opens that task, that is possible using that hook. So that's a way to extend it. And then maybe one of the most visible features is also in the toolbox of the workflow editor. You can also expose complete microflows as toolbox items, and that is the beauty of saying, if I'd like to have a DocuSign integration or whatever other integration, I just drag a block in, and it says, okay, document signed, document unsigned as an outcome, and that's it. So that's also a way of creating reusable elements, not only for yourself, but of course, when you import that through Marketplace, there's a whole world that opens for you as a developer, for your company also, to make those extensions available as just pre-made toolbox items that professional developers, but also again citizen developers can then use to build workflows in no time. So that's another way of extending the logic. And of course, as I said, there's microflow tasks to validate stuff on pages as well. So there's all sorts of ways which you can extend the logic.
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
That is so cool. So do I understand it correctly? And you say that just as we're used to Java actions, you can expose them as microflow action. You can do that. You now do the same with workflow.
Exactly. Yes, exactly.
That's a lot of value there.
Choose your image, and then it shows up in the toolbox, and it shows up in your process. And actually, that also holds for microflow tasks. The workflow understands the outcomes of a microflow task. So if you choose, for example, this microflow is going to have a result type of an enum, then it has three values, red, green, and blue. then if you drag that workflow inside, that microflow inside the workflow editor, it will actually just show red, green, and blue as outcomes, as paths already. So that is also a way of making sure it all integrates and making it easy to set up your process.
That's awesome. You really think this through.
Yeah, I can see why you spent a year on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's been major effort to get where we are, especially the integration part, the integrated. I think that will be a difference for us, for you guys, really making it easy rather than just bolting on something external that you have to adhere to the APIs, and there's a lot of work to actually integrate. This is just fully integrated right from the start. That's indeed, that's one of the main constraints, or no constraints, goals, I think, that we set ourselves. Yeah.
And that's where the actual value comes from, of course. That makes it so a complete package, which is really powerful. And I think you briefly touched marketplace a minute. So can we create reusable workflow components and put them in the market, like in our private marketplace, company marketplace?
Yeah, definitely. Even in the public one, of course, if you want to.
Of course, sure.
If that's helpful for you, if you can add value there as a company, that's also possible. So yeah, you can reusable components. Let's start with the easy ones in terms of the ones also inside Workflow Commons already. There is, for example, a user task template. That's just a page template that we use when you select a user task and say, hey, I'd like to have a page here. It actually shows you all the page templates that adhere to the format of the page template. That is a page template, of course, you can start to customize yourself. If it should look a certain way according to your company standards, if you would always like to have an activity timeline, and maybe that timeline looks different than the default one, perfect. Create your own template, then share it with others through Marketplace. That is possible. That's one. But as I said, also the Workflow Commons module contains an inbox. Or what if your company requires a standard inbox that's slightly different? You can just make that, wrap it up, publish it in the I was going to say App Store, but it's called Marketplace now. Just getting used to the terms.
Yeah, same.
And that is perfectly reusable for other developers inside, outside your company, and as I said, citizen developers. So it serves all those purposes in terms of reusability. And as I mentioned, the workflow actions, right? So microflows exposed as workflow actions is also something that will be of course, you will be able to just wrap up and publish and then reuse in different apps.
Cool.
Can't wait to get started with this.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
I think that brings us to our next question, and it might be a really nice question, but very important nonetheless. Will Workflow be a separate license, like for example DataHub, or will it be free with the Mendix toolkit?
Yeah, it's an important question, and the answer is it's included in the current license, so no separate license required. You can just start using it straight away.
Cool.
And even just as you are used a freemium offering, you can just download Studio Pro. Anyone can do and start using workflows, which is at different companies not even possible. So we really make sure you can see as much as possible.
Awesome, that's great to hear.
Yeah. Great decision.
And when can we start building workflows? Because this has got me excited.
Oh, that's the big question, right?
Yeah.
Soon, very soon. Happy to say with Mendix 9 GA, which is scheduled for the end of this month, right? So March 30th, we will release workflows in public beta. So that is the moment where you can go and see it. You can go check out documentation. You can go download that Workflow Commons module. You can start preparing your projects and see what's there. And so that's exciting. We're almost there. Only a few days to go, really. Yeah.
Awesome. You mentioned documentation. Do you also have like a how-to on how to get started if you download Workflow?
Yeah, definitely. There's two how-tos in the sense of one is more a developer how-to once you've prepared everything, and the other is how to prepare your app. So setting up your app is just a simple thing of downloading a Mendix Workflow Commons module if you want to. I should say, and I'd like to state that that's an optional module, right? Everything is available inside the design time and the runtime. It's just a convenience.
Okay.
And I would recommend doing it if you want to, it's also an example implementation.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you could just work around that and just build your own stuff just as easily. So that's that. Just setting up that module, and then there's a how-to that actually shows you how to build a workflow step by step. So it explains the user task, explains the microflow tasks, and I know I think it's an employee onboarding process that we do.
Sure.
Just a few simple tasks, but really showing the concept. And after that, I think you're done. There will be academy trainings as well, just so
cool.
you know. So we've made sure that you can get as much informed as you'd like. And of course, you can always go to the forum if you have questions.
Obviously.
Yeah. So that's that.
Wow.
That is a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, you got me really excited about workflow. As I think in at Mendix World, workflow already was mentioned.
Yes.
And as of that moment, we've been really eager to see what it is, and I'm really glad to hear that we don't have to wait very long anymore to get our hands on. So yeah, awesome.
One thing comes to mind is it's a beta, and I understand that, but so what's next? What's next for workflow?
So a good question. Indeed, it's a beta. That means we will be closely listening also to customers. We will be watching the forum and seeing, okay, is there anything that still needs to confusion that we may improve? Are there features that are, say, highest voted that we should include? That's a normal process for putting something out there. I don't expect the beta to take too long. I think ultimately 3 months after initial beta, we will have this GA. So you can already start preparing your projects to say, okay, once it goes GA, you can just flip the switch and go. So it's not that we're uncertain about the quality or about anything. It's just a way of introducing this, getting used to it, getting your feedback on the whole, apart from the private beta projects that we've already done. So and in that period, we will not be sitting still. We will be improving the developer experience based on feedback, and we'll just keep adding features. This is not something that we will stop doing. I've mentioned a few already, right, in this conversation. But there's also the notion of events, for example, workflow events. I'd like us to get much more rich in that respect. There is the overall experience, of course. As I said, the runtime API, I've mentioned that too, and even just a simple thing as annotations in workflows. No, it's stuff that really make sure that it can be as useful as possible to you. Regular workflow requirements, just as something we've discussed already, like when someone leaves for holiday. Could there be a mechanism, a framework for that to automatically escalate a task, or automatically send a reminder, or automatically delegate a task? That's useful features that you can build yourself, right? So don't limit yourself. You can just go off and do that. But it may even be give you extra speed if we were to offer a framework for that inside the product. So that's definitely on the roadmap as well.
Awesome.
Just some of the things that come to mind. It's
and maybe something like analytics of your workflow, or is it already included in your dashboard?
That's a good question. There is already included quite a bit actually. Yes, there's a dashboard that just compares, for example, against due date, but also lists the amount of tasks or amount of work for instance per state, right? Where are they in the process? Really a starting point for a process administrator to start really managing that workflow and also continuously improving it, right? If you see that a single task always takes more time than it actually has in its due date, then maybe something's wrong, either in the definition of the task or maybe in execution. And it's the moment to signal that and just jump in. So that is all there already, and of course you can extend that if you want. There's also an audit trail. I think I didn't mention that before. So see which task has been created when, what user picked it up, and also which outcome was chosen. So you can just follow that also for for traceability purposes as well.
That saves us some custom building, because I can imagine that will be a feature everyone always wants.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah.
Cool.
Kind of open door, but it's great that it's there.
Yeah.
Indeed. No.
So you mentioned a lot of things you've built over the past year. Can you? It might be a difficult question. What's the thing you're most proud of?
Oh, that's a good question indeed. First of all, in these projects so far, every developer that has touched it so far really sees, oh, this is going to save me so much time, right? So that is really what's making me proud, making impact. So not so much feature-wise, but on the whole, statements like, I can do in 1 or 2 hours what would have taken me a day or two in the past. Well, that is real value, and that's really going to improve, lives of people like you, and that's what I really like. So that's something we mentioned, the integrated part of it. So really making it an integrated part of Mendix. And for example, the workflow actions, right? Expose microflows, workflow action. That's really where you see, okay, this is going to be, this is going to help define this process truly. So just some of the things I'm proud of. Overall, I'm just proud of the team, really. To be honest, this is one of the best teams that I've worked with. So really making an impact there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. I'm information overloaded.
I can imagine. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm up to here with excitement and enthusiasm. It's a great story.
Yeah, and just get started. I would say just get started. It's not, you don't need to do everything from day one, understand everything, the whole extensibility thing. It just works out of the box. So it's very easy to just drag in a task, hit run, and it runs. So it's both this and the full story.
Nice. Yeah, I immediately have to think about one of my projects a while back, which had to use the BPN module to configure, basically workflows. And I get frustrated just thinking about how complex you can make it yourself with that module. The module itself is easy to use, but depending on your processes, it can be really tedious. So I just can't imagine how easy workflow would make it to create such an app. I can't wait to start using this tool in Studio Pro.
Good to hear that. And of course, we will be talking, right? Just keep sending me your feedback.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
That is really helpful. So yeah.
So is there anything you'd like to? Did we forget something? Did you want to tell us anything we left out, or?
No, I think we should just keep this conversation going, right? We will do webinars as well. So over time, we will see more and more of what's there. And also, my main request back would be just show what you've done on the Mendix community Slack, for example. If you are there on meetups, that's where the real value shines. Not me telling a story of everything clever that we did. It's actually just about actually the use and the impact that this feature makes, not just on an individual app level. You can also think of an whole architecture of workflow apps working together. That's just the next step, I think, to really think about also the architects to glue that all together. And I mean that in a positive way, not duct tape it together. I think this is the opportunity to think about this in a different way than before. So I'm looking forward to all the stuff that gets created and all the features that are being used to do so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I can imagine you're very busy this close to beta release. So thank you for carving out some time for us.
Yeah, much thanks.
There is some work left to do. I
can imagine.
Yeah. So thanks. I really like this. I like the format that you guys run. I like the enthusiasm that you bring to the whole thing. So thanks.
Thank you.
And what you just said about showing your stuff, I think talking about us, we'll definitely make a video about deep diving into workflow, the technical capabilities, and showing stuff off in Studio Pro. So yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
Okay, nice.
We'll be on the Mendix community Slack. If you haven't joined yet, please do. We'll post a link below the video. So get in touch.
Yeah. And again, Daniel, thank you very much for your time, and
Thank you
we'll keep
very
in
much.
touch.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.